saya ada podcast
Baik, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat siang teman-teman.
Semuanya pemirsa, kembali lagi dengan podcast KPK Kongko Pesantren Kebangsaan. Pada kali ini kita kedatangan oleh Prof. Eric Jones, Profesor Eric Jones dari Northern Illinois University.
Halo,
Welcome, Prof.
agak kereba.
Ya, Prof. Eric Jones dari Northern Illinois University di Amerika Serikat, dan kita juga bersama Prof. Budi Setiono.
Halo, Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam, Prof. Prof. Budi dari Universitas Diponegoro, dari Departemen Politik, Ilmu Politik dan Pemerintahan. Nah, saat ini kita akan berbicara menggunakan bahasa Inggris. Mohon maaf, pemirsa sekalian, nanti ada teks yang akan mengikuti, dan saya sebagai moderator Satria Ajimaman akan memandu diskusi ini. So we will talk about the voting behavior and the comparison of the election between United States of America and Indonesia. So maybe Prof. Eric can talk about American politics, United States of America politics, and also the comparison of in Indonesia. Because we heard, or maybe I heard, that you are becoming a political election observer.
Yeah.
For 2024 election in Indonesia, and you are coming from your background is from United States, which is will be election as well in November. So maybe you can tell a story about your experience of being
Sure.
Observer. Yeah.
Thanks for having me. And kali pertama saya di Indonesia ini 34 tahun yang lalu di Jogja dan Makassar. But yeah, my English is probably better. But I'll mix a little. But yeah, I'm a professor at Northern Illinois University, and I've been working on looking at Indonesia for more than 30 years, and I've been very, very lucky to have so many great students come to NIU. A whole generation of Team Tuju, early democracy. Andi Malarangang, Rias Rashid, Afan Ghaffar, Ramlan Sarbakti, and Prof. Imuan, of course, and of course, and you know, maybe most famously right now, Anis Baswedan, but Phil Samanti, Nico Rajan. And there's many, and so I guess anything I say that sounds good today, it's probably because I have good students helping me understand Indonesia better. But yeah, so America. So I was. I've also had a lot of good experiences working closely with KPU, with DPR, Secretariat DPR, in training, sort of as an institution trying to improve their structures, policies, procedures, and so I was invited as an election observer, and I went with DPR, and it was. I always joke, but it may be more than a joke that you know, maybe Indonesians should be observing American elections to save our democracy. But
it is more advanced than Indonesian situation.
Well, I don't know. I think we've come full circle, and maybe we're behind now, back behind Indonesia. I guess so. Some very big differences are the level of engagement of youth, of everyone in the election, in politics, is very high in Indonesia compared to the United States. There's a level of disenchantment with politics, with democracy, with voting that is deep and very worrying in terms of you have look at our candidates that's of Trump or Biden. There's hardly inspiring in each of them. Some people are only voting because they think the other one is so dangerous that they have to vote. That's not a good reason to want to vote. Seeing Indonesians really think and weigh, and the politics are not as polemic. There's many parties that represent their husbands and wife that are voting for different candidates and different parties, and that's something you don't see as much in the United States. And so I think there's some indicators for all of the worries about and they're real, of some of the health of democracy here. There's some really good signs, as I wrote about in the Jakarta Post, I think the voting itself is one particular area to be proud of.
Yeah,
I think you just wonder whether there are some Indonesia, actually the voting behavior is quite, there are some sort of leveling. There is no universal form of participation, for example, in terms of the engagement of people in the politics. For the higher level, they more engage in very intellectual and objective way to, let's say, comparing the program of the candidates. But on the other hand, the grassroots basically just want to participate when they receive something from the candidates.
Right.
Probably that's quite different with the US. Even though, as you say, that participation in Indonesia is higher.
Yeah, right. And I think there's a sense of that, and it's hard for, especially let's say middle lower class voters in the U.S. don't. It's not as obvious to them of what they might receive from if a certain party's in power. Even having extent where conservative party in the United States is actually getting poor people to vote against their economic interest by using social issues to scare them into, supporting them. But I think like the sort of the Susu Makan program is a good example of that poor voters feel like there's I'm going to get something out of this, right? And this and making maybe choices based on those. And so it's but right, there's different levels of engagement of I've studied the issues and the policies, and I choosing Canada as opposed to like I'm having a hard time affording school or food, so this party maybe will deliver that more.
Yeah, I think it is interesting what Prof. Budi said about the bright things and kind of money politics happen in Indonesia. Maybe you can also see, I don't know, in United States about how money politics works and the effect on the, I think it's different system between Indonesia and United States when states use district voice, like some districts have more the wake voice is different with the others. Maybe like Wyoming is different with Illinois in terms of the voice or something.
Right, and say if you look at like DPR and DPD in Indonesia, like they don't have equal power of the purse in terms of legislation, but in the United States Senate and the House, where a small state can have disproportionately large representation, and a big state like California can have in the Senate DPD. But and I think and money politics in the United States works. It's laundered or whitewashed through lobbying. So corporations, so they don't pay voters. Instead, lobbyists put massive amounts of trillions of dollars into political action campaigns that are, because they're quoted as free speech, that those companies can use their free speech and then they can support. There can't be coordination between the candidate and those efforts, but there is, of course, and so it's a legal form of a different kind of money politics that it works at a high. I mean, I guess if the money politics in Indonesia is bad and the money politics U.S., I guess the only advantage is like the money politics in the U.S. does not put money in poor people's pockets. At least the money, one silver lining is it does put money in poor people's pockets here. Again, it should be eliminated and worked against, but it does function very differently here than in the U.S.
Okay.
But meaning that the voters actually also get benefit from the donation from the corporate who been spent to the candidates, but they don't receive directly from that kind of donation, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think in the U.S. that voters don't get anything from the political action committees. It's really the party machines and especially the representatives who are lobbying. They can spend massive amounts on, say, on policy issues like abortion or gay rights or something, right? And so those can go, and right, that money finds its way into but I don't think it ever cracks into the lower class.
I just actually wondering whether similar experience actually being experienced by the US when they're still in the progress of the, let's say, development of democracy in the past. Like what happened in Indonesia, we refer to the theory developed by David Easton, political development theory, that basically there are 3 stages of development from the parochial, kaula, and participant culture. And now, because the influence of the GDP per capita in Indonesia is currently about 3,250 something according to the World Bank, so that the people basically still struggle for the basic need. And then that's encouraged people to make that reason for receiving money from the candidate instantly.
Right, it makes them vulnerable to those.
Yes,
right.
Yes.
Yeah.
And whether in the US, in the past when the GDP per capita, for example, still in the lower level, they also experience the same with us, or there are some different way.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. Like the joke in, where I'm near Chicago, the joke in Chicago is vote early and vote often, right? So that machine politics absolutely was vote buying. There in the early pre-war 20th century. That was definitely happening, and where almost syndicates ran, certain areas in those ways, and it appears differently now. But yeah, development has a big key into showing where voters are vulnerable to be influenced by money.
So it does mean that what happened in Indonesia is nothing special. That's happen during the transitional democracy or early stage of democratic progress, probably, according to you.
Yeah, and I think it's maybe I don't want to age you, but I as an old person myself, like the that we remember the New Order, and like it was we should I sound like I'm always defending or trying to champion Indonesian democracy, which I sort of also do, but like where Indonesia has come from the 1997 to now is miraculous in almost so and none of that should excuse bad money politics or voting behavior or dynasty. There's many problems, but like it as the historian in me, I think like we should think about how far it's come in these decades, and it's pretty phenomenal.
Yeah, it is interesting what Prof. Budi and Prof. Eric elaborate, and I would like to extend the trend to right now election in 2024, which is Indonesia has done, and maybe US in November, if I'm November. So we are actually in the same year of the election. So 2024 is basically a year of election, and in Indonesia, there is a transition based on what we discussed about the money politics, bribe, kind of transactional politics, and we know that in Indonesia it looks like one-term election, which is lastly happened in 2009.
Yeah,
when SBY won election, and maybe I ask Prof. Budi first, what kind of trend like that, and secondly, is that a trend of democracy shift from politics to economy? Like people more care about economy rather than politics. So maybe in the future, someone who can make promises on economy base will win the election.
Well, first of all, I actually quite happy with what Eric already explained to us, that the experience, even though there are some weaknesses of the process of election in Indonesia actually occurring, but to some extent, this is not something special in terms of the development of democracy, like what happened in the US. I think in the past they also experienced the same. For example, in terms of probably violence and also money politics. I think to a certain degree there were also some violence during election in the US in the past, right? Like what happened in Indonesia during democratic transition. So this is not special case of Indonesian election, but it is a common trend in the process of transition of democracy, where there are some weaknesses of the process of election. But I believe that there are some positive prospect of democratization in Indonesia during the election 2009, 2014, for example, and then 2024. There are some good progress indicated by the peaceful process of election. The occurrence of violence during election pretty much decreasing in comparison to the election in the past. Even though in terms of the money politics, I think, I don't know whether it is worsening, but probably it is related to the fact that the income of Indonesian people generally still very low in whatever the measurement, so that, for example, our GDP per capita right now is only about 3,250 in compared to the US, more than $60,000 probably, the GDP per capita, right? So in that sense, this is not an excuse, but in terms of the economic reason for people turn over or participate in the election, they basically still expecting receiving something like money politics from the candidates in order to make them judge which candidates can be chosen by them. So that this still homework for us to make improvement. The way we develop the economic progress should be more advanced in order to prevent the perception of the people that election means getting something in cash from the party and candidate.
Yeah, it is interesting, Prof. Budi. It is also maybe rhyme with the evidence from Prof. Eric. Once he told the story to me that he joined the rally, I guess, one of the political party, and
this year
in Malang.
Oh yeah. So you joined with the motorcycle rally, or observing from roadside.
So I'm, as a historian, I'm working on a project on sort of the reformasi and talking to people who are involved, and so I was was fortunate to be with sort of SBA as an observer, sort of, and I visited many of the parties, PKS, Anies, sort of looking at democracy in Indonesia. But at this rally in Malang, I was, and this is the one that Prabowo was at as well, and AHY and SBA, and the asking people, hey, so what do you like about Partai Demokrat? Just, it was a Democrat rally, and a lot of like, well, my life is okay, but I want it to be better and continue more, and there were the things you would predict. And then one woman, there was a dangdut singer on stage, and she's like, oh, I love dangdut, that's why she was. And I said, oh, well, I thinking that she didn't understand the question, and she's like, no, that's why I vote Democrat, because I'm worried that the others will ban dangdut. And
so that's true political aspiration then, in terms of very simple way.
So right, and what's interesting, right, is that there's none of the candidates have claimed to want to ban dangdut, but like I think there's also a what society Indonesians feel like they want, or an open progressive, or they feel like and whether that's real or imagined, what the other parties will shape the Indonesian future to be like. That it was a very interesting sentiment about like what they want to Indonesia to, the open society, I think, is what they feel comfortable. And I think if to win, you have to get that middle in politics.
Do you think?
I just wonder
okay.
actually which issues that more driving people to choose in the U.S. whether it is domestic or foreign issues.
No, I mean, U.S. voters are so uninformed about international issues. I think it's definitely it's sadly sort of polemic religious issues are often like cultural issues, social issues that are, well, if you believe in, that we need to bring God back into the school, or we need to, abortion is a they use wedge. They're called wedge issues, social issues to, guns. This party will take your guns away. This party won't. Yeah, and so freedom, right? And so that I think those are for a big group of there are many, some who analyze the issues and the debates and really think, but there's some who feel like they're one will take away their freedoms, the other ones will assure them. One is like the this is the Gerakan 30S, and the other one is like the so they paint these stark contrasts of what of communism versus freedom and capitalism, and so it's not always a productive debate. I mean, a bit like the dunk. That was an uninformed observation. There's no banning of Dangdut, but that's how she felt.
Yeah.
How about the appearance? I mean, the figure of the candidate is also influenced the way people perceive. This one is handsome, good looking.
Yeah, we don't have a Gamoy issue in the United States because none of our candidates are even. There have been elections where that's been, I think, part of, and there are in Senate and House races where people can be swayed by sort of celebrity or by appearance. So I don't think that we're immune from that. But it has been interesting to watch. I think part of it is Indonesians are much more astute observers of sort of charisma, of I think it's more than just saying someone is handsome or not. I think they perceive, and so Obama had this effect, right? In he was, and I don't think Americans had a good language for it like Indonesians do, but like he has something, right? He has this something out, the spirit, this sakti or something that is, and so I think Indonesians are more tuned into what they perceive those two exist, and maybe will be more likely to follow that person, regardless of ideology even.
But there are some certainty in Indonesian context. I mean, whoever the candidate said look beautiful appearance, the more likely she will be elected. In many ways,
I think like sociological research can show this, right? That people choose or believe or follow someone who looks a certain way, and this is why if you look at say marketing in the pharmaceutical industry in the United States, you'll be at a doctor's office, and if you see a woman who looks like a supermodel, that probably is a woman who is a pharmaceutical sales representative who is trying to convince the doctor to care. It's just sort of human behavior 101 that that people are probably more easily persuaded by someone who they think is handsome or pretty or
So that's happened anywhere, yeah?
I think so.
Basically.
Okay. Maybe this is the last questions about the future. Basically based on 2024, maybe between US and Indonesia has 1 year differences. In Indonesia we have 5 years, in the US is 4, I guess, 4 years. So difference is 1 year. Maybe I would like to know. We would like to know how the voting behavior in the future, Prof. Eric and Prof. Budi, about. Is there any kind of people will getting more rational, not really transactional? Like we have a very good election maybe for Indonesia in 14, like when Jokowi nobody wins election, maybe has no money power or something like that. And the US there is Obama, which is I also very hype when Obama chosen as a president, a background of African something like that. Do you think it will be happening in the future of election, which Indonesia?
Well, I think I have some research during several elections in the past, and in 2009, even 2004, I engaged in certain research project, and also 2009, 2014, 2019. I think I also engaged in the observation of the election, and there is a trend showing that the rationality of people in choosing the candidates getting higher during one election to the other, to the next. I mean, the percentage of the people who perceive or affirmative to money politics basically decreasing. I think it is also because of the influence of education, and also probably also the progress in terms of the economic income of the people. So that when we encourage education to the people, the more educated people, the more they will choose using rationality when they make a judgment. But we have to be aware that the perception of the people also influenced by the information created to be fitted to them. I mean, of course, people will later on think rationally when they choose, but when they receive the information produced by hoax, for example, or by false information, that's the other story, because they may think that even though this is a false information, they have no capacity or time to verify the information. So even though they think that they choose rationally, but actually not quite rational. So that's why in terms of the information era right now, people should be aware about that's dangerous.
I mean, those are good comments. I think there's some signs to think, if you think that rational voting is a good thing, and that, you know, look at the way that the presidential and the party and the DPR vote was split. So you had voters walking into the ballot and choosing number 2 for president and number 3 for DPR, right? So that's a really interesting, like they're making some. It's not just like, well, I'm just gonna vote for one or vote for 2 or vote for 8. They're thinking about. And so I think that's a good sign, actually, that there's that they're really thinking about, and I think, you know, that and your research has pointed out that economics is the it's the economy, stupid, is the response, like they're going to think, and I think voters, you see especially Western journalists really, I think getting it wrong about that how would they choose this? Well, it's not hard to see voters said, like, that number 2 was probably the candidate who was most likely to continue some of the progress, and they chose rationally for that reason. And so I think there obviously some of the Gamoy stuff and other things are but like look at U.S. voters, who are allegedly rational. You have entire percentages of the electorate who believe that all voting is fake, that all vote, because the president supported that. President Trump said that, after the election. They attack the Capitol and try to hang our elected officials. All lies, none of it true.
Yeah. We learned that in the U.S., for example, people choose differently about the presidential candidate and the state parliament or premier in the state, right? I mean,
right. There's a more pragmatic in general, like governors and say senators have to be much more. They represent all of the people, and because of gerrymandering and manipulation of districts in Congress, and then the production, and then the presidential vote, which, because we don't have, and thank God Team Tuju did not choose, they chose that every vote counts, and because of our electoral college, their votes don't matter if they come from a total red state or a total blue state. Like, it doesn't matter if they vote. Their state's going to go. All the electoral votes are going to go to one candidate who wins, and so they feel like there's no. Or if their votes are gerrymandered, you have only the most radical candidate who's going to win those primary races in those districts that are gerrymandered, and so you get really bad. And so you have much more pragmatic governors and senators.
But in terms of let's say the last discussion, in terms of the persistence of the people in choosing or those in a very traditional way. Republicans always choose Republicans. How many percentage, according to you, or Democrats always choose Democrat, whether in the state or in the federal government, and never change their mind? I mean,
right. I think American voters are much likely to choose down the line because there's only two parties.
Yeah.
You know, as in Indonesia, you saw like where someone who's more progressive, they have a lot of choices in terms of party that they could choose. As where the U.S. you only have, so you think there's a lot more straight party votes. Actually, I think most people probably walk in and just click all Democrat or all Republican.
Okay.
And I think Indonesians have to think more about their candidates.
But that's still huge percentage in terms of the people who consistently choose one.
Right, but whole blocks of voters are moving, like where the left in the U.S. that used to have labor and sort of blue collar factory workers, for example. Now those same voters don't work in unions, don't have the same factory jobs. They've gone overseas, and so they are more disparate. So maybe they're voting conservative now. So you have whole groups that are flipping in other ways. So yeah, it's interesting, not entirely encouraging. You see the watching Indonesia, you see the really advantage of having all these parties where differences can be expressed. So there's not those avenues in the U.S.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah, thank you very much for the discussion, Prof. Eric and Prof. Budi.
All right.
Maybe we can talk another time with another maybe.
Can I get a plug in for listen to my podcast, Southeast Asia Crossroads?
Yeah.
If you Southeast Asia Crossroads or Napalm in the Morning, which is maybe more comedic, where we watch bad movies about the Vietnam War and then talk about them.
Maybe they can put the link on the description. Yeah,
sure.
So that, okay. Very interesting, Eric. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Terima kasih para pemirsa podcast Komposan Kebangsaan. Sampai jumpa lagi. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Selamat pagi, sore, siang. Terima kasih.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
we actually to